Hey folks, Crosslux here with a follow-up to my Under the Sea profile, a deck featuring the Marincess Archetype. This video will be covering specific combos and strategies to employ when piloting that deck, so please be sure to watch my first video so you know what cards are in it. Despite being a combo deck, I've built this as a going first deck. The reason for this is so that we can establish our nigh unbreakable board with less chances for error. This deck is fairly consistent. As you'll see from our combos, there's a lot of different combinations that can really get us off the ground. Another few quick tips before we look at our combos in depth. Watch your link arrows. Most of the Marincess link monsters have forgiving arrow placement, but sometimes you can lock yourself out of your extra deck with improper placements. The safest zones to place extra monsters that you summon throughout your turn are the leftmost and rightmost zones. This is because the Marincess are performers, and thus take center stage. When using interruptions, be sure to spam Marincess Wave. This trap card is reusable and searchable, so you should always have one in reserve. Not only that, but it's not once per turn. If you can keep your opponent from building up their own board, you'll have a much easier time in the long run. And finally, what should we do when going second? Well, the Marincess lack ways of breaking boards, so hopefully you've opened enough hand traps to keep your opponent from popping off too badly. If you are staring down a rough looking board, the best thing to do is to play things as safe as possible. We have a lot of recursion, so use that to your advantage. Now, I'm going to start with simple combos and move on up to the more complicated ones. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Blue Tang is our best starter because she just does so much. Let's start by normal summoning her. Upon summon, she mills out a Sea Horse from deck. Now we can link her into Blue Slug. This is going to trigger two effects that you'll want to chain based on what hand trap you're most afraid of. Ash, make Blue Tang's Grave effect chain link 1. Belle, make Blue Slug's on summon effect chain link 1. Of course, if your opponent was going to Ash you, they'd probably just hit the Blue Tang on summon, so in general, I link Slug as 1 and Tang as 2. Tang will attempt to fetch a Marincess card from the top 3 cards of deck. There are 16 Marincess cards in this 40 card deck, which gives us approximately a 1 in 3 chance of seeing a Marincess card. Since Tang checks for 3 cards off the top, on average we should be picking up an additional card. For the sake of these combos, however, I'm going to assume we whiff, as I want to demonstrate what we're capable of with just the Tang on her own. Anyways, Slug then lets us add the Sea Horse that was just dumped from Tang back to our hand. Now, we can use Sea Horse's effect to special summon herself from hand. We can then link her into Sea Angel and fetch us our Battle Ocean. After activating it, we can link both of our monsters into Coral Anemone and proceed to use her effect to special back one of our Marincess monsters. It doesn't really matter which one. We can now continue to link climb into Marbled Rock. Anemone just hit the grave, so we can add back a Marincess card to our hand, but we can also trigger Battle Ocean here, allowing us to equip all 3 of our link monsters from the grave to Marbled Rock. This will end up making her a 4500 attack monster, as strong as Blue Eye's Ultimate Dragon. The only problem is that she's still vulnerable to effects at this point, since we weren't able to make Crystal Heart first. Anemone's effect lets us grab back Blue Tang or Sea Horse so that we have a follow-up play next turn. Now we can also use Marble's ability to add back the other card. So this combo isn't that great, but it demonstrates just how far a single card can take us. In this example, we've essentially gone +3 in card advantage, and we've only used 1 out of our 5 starting cards in hand, meaning that there's likely tons of other things that we could do to extend and build this board, or keep in reserve to mess with our opponent on the next turn. Let's see what just 1 extender does for us. This time, let's say we not only have Blue Tang, but also Pascalus in our starting hand. In this case, I'd lead with the Pascalus, as she lets us have 2 monsters on board before we even begin link summoning. Since Blue Tang's dumping effect even triggers off of a special summon, we're not missing out on anything here. We're still going to dump the Sea Horse. Now, we can turn Tang into Slug, calling back the Sea Horse and trying to excavate for more cards. Now we drop the horse and link into Angel, grabbing our field. We still make Anemone and use her effect to bring back one of the cards used to summon her. At this point, we can form an additional link too, this one being Crystal Heart, the piece that we were missing out on in our first combo. Playing Battle Ocean and linking Anemone and Heart together into Bubble Reef to create a towers with 4,600 attack points while calling back a Seahorse for follow-up plays is definitely the right call here. Already, this play is much stronger since our beefy monster is practically impossible to out. Unless our opponent opened Spell and Trap Destruction and or a Kaiju, they're most likely not getting over Bubble Reef. Keep in mind that we still have 3 other cards from our opening hand, which could be hand traps that we can use to disrupt our opponent. Not only that, but as our opponent begins their turn, Bubble Reef will banish a card from our grave to draw an additional card and pump herself up to 5,200. Almost every combo we have involves Blue Tang because she's just that crucial. We have 3 copies in a 39 card deck, remember Upstart Goblin? And we have 3 copies of Cynet Mining, so we should be seeing her often. Anyways, besides Tang, let's say we also have Swamp Frog, since I want to show off what he can do. As usual, we'll begin with a normal summon of Blue Tang, dumping the Sea Horse, go into Slug, pick up the horse, and excavate for a card. Now, let's use our Swamp Frog by pitching another water from hand to special him. If we don't have a better target like Mandarin or another frog, we could always just pitch the Sea Horse that we had just grabbed. But for the sake of this combo, let's say it was a Mandarin. Since we still have Sea Horse, we can put her where Slug points to, and turn her into Sea Angel, grabbing the ocean. Now we can turn Swamp and Angel into Anemone. Use her to revive our Swamp Frog all the way over here, dumping a Ronintoadin this time. Remember how we pitched Mandarin to summon Swamp Frog earlier in this combo? Well, now that we have 2 Marincess monsters and an open link arrow, we can call her back. Now we can turn Slug and Mandarin into Crystal Heart, activate the field spell, and link our 2 link monsters into Bubble Reef, equipping her well. Note we still have a lone frog on field. Let's make him less lonely by banishing the other swap in grave to bring back our Ronintoadin. Now we can overlay them into Totally Awesome, giving us at least 1 Omni Negate to protect our field spell, not including any of the other cards that we still have in hand. Hopefully, these 3 combos demonstrate just what this deck is capable of. Between the playstyle and the aesthetic, this has got to be one of my favorite decks yet, and I definitely look forward to all the new support these girls are going to get in the future. Thanks so much for watching. Please leave comments about what changes you'd make to this deck, and if there's something that I'm forgetting. Until next time, have a blessed day. Oh, and EHonda, I hope you brought your pool floaties because I'm taking you to the deep end.